Well, hello, everyone. This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. I have with me a great guest, Jonah Trout, who is a graduate of Georgetown University's McDonough School of Business. And Jonah is working at PwC in their financial advisory practice and graduated in 2016. So Jonah, we want to take a trip back and go back to the days when you were thinking about MBA. And getting an education, a higher education, and you were at you're at the Federal Reserve Bank.
Yep.
And tell me what you were thinking, why you wanted an MBA, and why you ultimately chose Georgetown.
Yeah, no, and it was a very interesting question, which even I'm sure now as people are thinking about pursuing the MBA to consider. So I had been a public servant at the Federal Reserve from 2008 to 2014 as an examiner, and I reached to the point in my career where my then boss said to me, "Hey, Jonah, you either can stay here at the Fed and capitalize on the experience you've had throughout the financial crisis here at the New York Fed, as well as the Board of Governors in DC, or make the jump to private sector." I tried to do that on my own without thinking about pursuing a master's degree. And what I found was that I was often perceived as a government bureaucrat. And to me, I thought, I was like, well, it's a quasi-government organization, but okay, I'll let you run with it. And so the MBA to me really helped me create that narrative where I could say, hey, I had this quasi-government public sector position. I then used the MBA as a way to expand. What I like about the MBA, right, it's a mile wide of information, but a foot deep into all the various types of things that you can learn about within your MBA. So that then created the narrative where I could say, hey, I've now used that as a way to create the flexion points and then go into the private sector. So that's why I chose to pursue my MBA at that time.
Yeah, so your desire was to make a career pivot, and the MBA allowed that to happen.
Yep.
Now, why Georgetown?
So, and you'll see I'm all about the narrative, right? Because I think as folks are thinking about pursuing the MBA, that yes, school rankings make sense, and all of that. But to me, it's like, what kind of narrative could I really provide to explain to my future employers that I would be seeking after graduation? What would make sense? And so to me, the benefit that the Georgetown program provided to me is really at the nexus of being in DC at the intersection between government and business, right? So I was at that intersection personally myself between government and business. And to me, the narrative of being able to say, I was quasi-public sector job. I went to a school at Georgetown that not only has the McDonough School of Business, but the School of Foreign Service, the law school, the med school, and you could take classes outside of the Georgetown program up to, at the time, 36 credits, but now it's about 24. So to me, it helped further that narrative that I'm at this selection myself, but then I really went to the nexus of it, both physically and academically at Georgetown, to then say, I'm ready for my private sector role.
Yeah, no, that's a great fit. And Georgetown is a fantastic school, and they have a beautiful building. I don't know if no one is
a beautiful building. Yes,
the campus is incredible, beautiful.
It is.
But the business school building is really world class, very modern, really a comfortable environment to be in, and to be with great people.
The hilltop is a beautiful place. I miss it, and even when I'm in DC, I always love to go up on the hilltop and visit. So
me too. I really like that area of DC very much. Okay. So you go off to Georgetown. What was it like? How did the experience meet what you expected, and how did it differ from what you expected?
In terms of what I expected, what was really valuable to me about an MBA too is the difference of thought and perspectives that, particularly with the case style environment, I wanted to be in a classroom where it wasn't just hearing experiences of people like me with a finance background, or even, a lot of the times I worked a lot with consultants at the Fed, so a consulting background. So to me, it was Georgetown prides itself in trying to bring a lot more diversity in terms of the prior experience that folks bring. So you'll see that compared to other schools, Georgetown has a lot more public sector type of experience, like myself at the time, right? But I was in that unique quasi public sector role. But the more important thing is at the time, we actually had the highest percentage of international students within any MBA program. And so to me, given this whole globalization that business is going through, what better opportunity for me to go to a school like Georgetown, but then hearing like, folks, I remember being in a class and one of my classmates, Sarabi, who I still love to this day, and we were doing a case, a Harvard Business School case around fishermen in Kerala, India. And she actually raised her hand and goes, "Oh, I actually helped consult the people on this Kerala fishing case." And it was like, and the teacher's like, "Do you want to come up and teach on this class?" And it was a great opportunity. And it just shows like how much, wealth of experience like folks can bring in the case, and particularly like a school of Georgetown that values on international students.
Yeah. I also think the location of the school is fascinating. Yeah. I mean, partly because of what you said before, but because, Washington as the center of our government in public policy is a place that affords you, a lot of open doors to get speakers, lecturers, adjunct faculty who are involved in the making of public policy and the influencing of public policy and how public policy meets the world of business.
Yep.
And that's special. And then, of course, for people who may or may not know, Amazon has decided to locate in the Washington metro area its second headquarters.
Yep.
This is a major development because the ecosystem of companies that surround Amazon will be considerable, and the job opportunities that will provide, along with, the opportunity to be with students who were at Amazon or who are going to Amazon, who work for Amazon related companies. It's just going to be a game changer for the entire Washington metro area moving forward. Now, if you had to say what your favorite class or favorite professor was, what would it be?
Oh, that's so. I mean, am I allowed to say? So I also I did do some classes at the School of Foreign Service. So could I be a bit of a cheat and say my favorite McDonough? Okay, good.
That is a major benefit of going to Georgetown for an MBA. That there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to the McDonough program, I would have to say my favorite course in the McDonough MBA program would be our capstone global business experience. So I know a lot of other schools think about, they do treks abroad and you could help consult a foreign company that's sorting out an issue that you hope that you can help them out with. But McDonough actually, there's professors that own geographic areas. I did and was very happy to have got Brazil. And we were working with the Central Stock Exchange thinking about a crowdfunding platform. And it was me and a team of 2 people from the law school, 1 person from the School of Foreign Service, and then 2 other MBAs. And working through with the head of the stock exchange and his team to think about whether a crowdfunding platform was important, and getting to travel to Sao Paulo and, meet with the folks there was very exciting for me, and also getting to enjoy Brazil. I ended up getting engaged on the trip, so my husband and I were very happy with that.
Congratulations.
So that's part of the reason why it's one of my favorites. I got to get those brownie points with the husband to make sure I call that out. But
that's fantastic.
Then
here's what I want to interrupt you because I want to just
say
to everyone how unusual that is. Most experiential learning opportunities at business schools are among just your MBA students. The fact that this is interdisciplinary and brought in students from other departments, other schools, really enriches the experience because, you can make the argument, I don't think this is a good argument to make, but you can make it, that most MBA students think alike. But when you're in law school or foreign policy or public policy, now you're getting a whole different mindset of people in the team. And I think that adds a whole new fantastic dimension.
No, you're spot on. Like, because to me, I mean, the 2 law school students who, they were like, we're going to delve into the regulations between UK, Brazil. At the time, New Zealand was really doing big things around crowdfunding. So like they were analyzing sections and subsections of regulations, and then they were telling us, the MBAs, and we were trying to translate that in terms of a strategy the stock exchange could pursue. Then the public policy person thought, well, if policy changes, then how does that go? But to your point, like that's the great beauty of Georgetown and having all those schools around you that, like, to me, it's how do you round out your MBA? And so I tried to do that. So the other class that I was going to bring up is at the time I was part of the International Business Diplomacy program, where if you take what you do basically is you commit to say, I will take a certain amount of my credits for the School of Foreign Service. And I took an international trade class, and it was just, again, pre-China trade deal with everything that's happening out now, but hearing from like Professor Jensen, who to your point has advised many presidents on what they're doing with respect to public policy and trade, and then doing a case study around international trade and thinking about the benefits of that. It really cements this whole idea around globalization and how you need to think big when you're helping clients like I do now solve their most complex problems.
What did you think of your classmates?
Good. I think a lot of my classmates would say that I was a consulting club co-president. I was a missions ambassador, and I was also the EVP of our LGBT group. So I really got to experience a lot of my classmates. There's a group of us that have really stuck together. We've now seen babies being born or puppies being brought into the family. But I love my classmates. And it's just, I would love to do anything to like go back and do another 2 years with all of them, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that's the best vote of confidence in your experience that you could ever hear, that, you know, you're sorry it ended probably, and you want to go back for more. I'm
crossing my fingers that we can have our 5-year anniversary or, you know, reunion in person next year, but we'll see.
I often say that an underappreciated part of a good MBA program is the professional development, the personal development you go through.
Correct.
That gives you more self-confidence, not cockiness. That makes you a better professional and more efficient person who uses time wisely. Do you feel like you got that from Georgetown?
So they did a couple of different avenues. So like short answer to your question is yes, but the different avenues in which they do that, right? We have a concept where Georgetown is a bit unique with its opening term. So typically schools start around the typical starting date of right after Labor Day, but Georgetown actually says, hey, like recruiters are going to be on campus first day, and we're going to bring you in actually 3 weeks earlier than everybody else is. And you're going to go through your macroeconomics class, a leadership development course, as well as like more of a micro mix of analysis type of work. And so to me, that leadership development course, and the professor was teaching at the time, she now teaches at Columbia Business School. It was great to build that communication because I was coming from a mission-driven organization and now thinking more of a profit-driven type of a spiel. So trying to more so refine the way I articulate myself with folks, and also just, you know, trying to be a better business person. And then throughout all the classes, there's a big element of leadership. And given Georgetown is a university that is founded on the Jesuit tradition of men and women in service to others, they really embed that in the program. And then more importantly, all those other things I spoke about with being a student ambassador and club leadership, the program office does really well in making sure you're prepared from a leadership perspective, because that's your way as a second year to help the first years and continue that return on investment for the program ongoing.
Sure, and giving back to the community the way you did really allows you to stretch your leadership muscles.
Correct.
And to develop them clearly. So you went to school for a career pivot. You
Yep.
were successful in that. How helpful was the school, the career development office, whether you had coaching to make it easier for you to make that transition?
I would say Doreen Amorosa, who's the dean of the Career Center. I had many sessions with her because to me, I was coming, I mean, you heard, as I said earlier, I tried to make the jump without the MBA to the private sector and was really battling with this idea of, oh, you're a public bureaucrat. How can you make way in the crazy, sexy world that is consulting? So trying to create that narrative was really important to me. And there's no better place to do that than with the career service professionals that they have in the Career Center at Georgetown. So they really helped me, not more so because I wanted to go into risk consulting. So I had a targeted strategy with the firms I was going with. I wasn't really thinking MBB. I was more so thinking Big Four or the boutique consulting firms within the space that cover risk type of consulting.
Right.
So it was more so working with them to fine tune that narrative of what Georgetown, I'm sure other schools call it, tell me about yourself. Like, how can I in 30 seconds get that appeal of what I'm trying to use the MBA for and achieve in my career outside the MBA?
The elevator pitch.
Yes.
Okay. And what advice would you have for yourself if you were to move yourself back pre-MBA days? Is there advice you would be able to give yourself now based on the experiences you've had?
I think the biggest advice, if I would go back, is to not get so caught up in all the research and the black hole of the internet that you can do when preparing and figuring out where you want to go for your MBA. Because I think if people were to take a step back, and I wish I would have done it at the time, it gets back to this whole idea of the narrative. So when I was prepping for the GMAT, putting together my applications, reading all the blogs about what I should be doing, should not be doing, like, to me, it's my personal brand. Because now, even as a consultant, like, I found that having this personal brand and rapport is what makes you a better consultant, right? Because people need to be able to look at you as a trusted advisor. So using that same analogy for yourself to say, okay, I'm going for an MBA. What do I want out of it? And then laying that out on a paper and then saying, okay, what schools helped me do that? Like, for me, it was great that Georgetown ended up doing that for me. But I think if I were to have been driven more so by, I don't know, where my friends were going for MBA, or where rankings were telling me, or where schools were getting hired by certain employers, that may have made me go to a different school that may not have given me as good of a narrative as what I got at Georgetown, which was, again, coincidental and just worked out very, very well.
I think that's really good advice because so many people become obsessed with rankings.
Yeah.
And the truth is, there are a lot of fantastic full-time MBA programs that are actually better suited to people than, you know, who's one, who's number two, who's number three, who's number five.
Yeah.
And the key element to me is, can that education help you fulfill your dream? And for you, it was a career pivot and into exactly what you wanted to do. And in fact, the whole government, private, public enterprise aspect of being in Washington and in Georgetown went right to your strengths and your passions.
Correct.
So I don't think there could have been a more ideal experience that you could have had.
Yeah, and like I said, if I could go back and relive the 2 years, I would more than happily do so. So maybe without the homework and the tests, but yes.
Oh, I'm studying for the GMAT.
Oh no! Oh my gosh! When I talk to people thinking about MBAs, that gives me some good flashbacks of decision trees and all that.
Well, Jonah, it's been a pleasure to spend a little time with you. Good luck in your career. I'm hoping that your 5-year sort of anniversary reunion is going to happen in person, face to face,
so as well.
So that there can be a lot of hugs, a lot of smiles, and a lot of fun times remembering those 2 years at Georgetown. Thanks.
Yeah, no, and anytime. And I just like to say, I love how Poets and Quants really puts together material that helps really navigate, and I found it as a useful resource. So I'm hoping folks will find this useful as they're thinking about their MBA.
Well, thanks so much. Good luck to you, Jonah.
Thanks.
This is John Byrne with Poets and Quants. Thanks for watching.